So how does diet, sleep, and exercise contribute or not contribute to burnout and overwhelm?
Think about it this way. When you're suffering burnout, some of the physical manifestation of that is that you find yourself getting sick a lot. Do you find yourself having allergy attacks more often? Do you find yourself daydreaming and not able to focus? There's definitely some like vitamins and some things that you can do to combat that. One of my favorite things, and this is not for everyone, but one of my favorite things to do is to go into a float tank. If you guys have ever been to a float tank, it's like yes, right. Okay. So it's basically an Epsom salt bath. So Epsom salts are high in magnesium. Magnesium, we're as a race of people, we are generally magnesium deficient. It helps our muscles relax, right? So we tend to be magnesium deficient. So that means we're never completely in a relaxed state. Well, we can't be completely, but you know what I mean. So we don't relax as well as we should. So if you ever had an Epsom salt bath, you notice how much better you sleep at night, right? Okay, so a float tank takes 1,000 pounds of Epsom salts and it puts the body temperature, the water at body temperature. And then it encloses you in a dark area. Now you can have the closed in ones or the open ones, whatever, but there's no light, there's no sound. And then as you float, because you can't fall, I mean, you've got like this much water, but as you start to float, you suddenly lose sense of everything else. So what I find with that is it's a wonderful way for my brain to decompress because it doesn't have any sensory anything taking away from what's going on in the rest of me. And I fall asleep almost every single time, but I come out of there feeling like a space noodle. I mean, just like, whoa, I feel amazing. And my brain is just, it's lovely. And it really helps your brain kind of sort some things out because it's not having to deal with any external stimuli, which I find is really helpful. And then I sleep like a baby, which how many of us are sleep deprived because we think I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And if you don't write it down and get it out of your brain, it stays there and makes you crazy a little bit.
I will make one comment. I love that, Angela. And what it's doing is restoring you to homeostasis, restoring you to balance. And I feel like there's so much over information about diet and exercise and all that stuff that the most important thing is for people to learn about their own bodies and what they need. What does your body need? I've got this nice little thing on my arm that tells me where my blood sugar is, and it gives me a lot of power because I can see where it goes. But everybody's needs are different, and they need to figure out their own priorities and take the time to learn about this stuff because it's not, you can't go, well, you should eat this and you should take those vitamins. It's
right.
We're learning how individual it really is now with DNA.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is, have you guys ever been to a situation where you were, maybe you were on vacation and you were really relaxed and you didn't feel like I have to eat at these times and I just have to find food, or you just went naturally with what your body wanted and you ate what you wanted and you stopped when you were full because you had no external expectations. We're on the beach, we're just hanging out. You want some food? Nah. Or yeah, the strawberries sound good. Nah, I don't want, no, I want that. Like you were just more in tune with yourself. And the thing is, like Lea was saying, we have so much external overload information on what you should eat or shouldn't eat. You know how to take care of yourself. You do. We just have to be reminded of that and think back to times where you were like that. And you can listen to yourself and say, yeah, I do know what I need. Yeah, I think chicken sounds better today. Or I think I could really go for some broccoli. Have you ever been on a road trip and you had nothing but fried food and all you want is something green? I mean, if you can listen to yourself, it's good to find yourself to be able to get in that space where you can listen to yourself because you do know how to take care of yourself. You just have to be able to listen. And that, it's a challenge, but just knowing that is comforting enough to know that you can do that. You can get in that space.
Where my brain, like something that, I mean, I'm not a health coach and you guys have, such an amazing set of expertise around like that physical stuff. But I think something that I think about is actually, and I think Arthur typed it in, the mindfulness. And I went to meditation actually is something that has really changed my life. And meditation, mindfulness, whatever it is, and we could go down that rabbit hole. But I think what it really comes down to is being present to things. And, one thing that changed my life actually at a time in my life, I also went through a really big injury about 10 years ago and found myself in this really sort of dark, deep depression, anxiety in the middle of New York City, couldn't do anything, couldn't play really. But one of the things that helped me deal with that anxiety, which was coming from an injury and other things, but was just, the mindfulness. And actually wrote a blog post about this. Can gratitude train confidence, I think is what I called it. But I think just thinking about the power of gratitude, the power of presence, and what I really boiled it down to is like noticing the little things. When I was in my most like anxiety-ridden state in New York City, where things were happening a mile a minute, and I couldn't keep up with any of them because my hands were injured. Noticing the little things. I started focusing on the little interactions and the little things that were happening, and that helped me stay present, right? Because one of my favorite quotes is by Michael Gervais, I think is how you say his name. He's a sports psychologist, works with baseball teams and high-level athletes. He says, the worried mind is always ahead or behind. And we think about how that plays into anxiety, right? Or stress. And coming to that present moment, noticing the little things. So, and I think sometimes when I talk about this, it might feel overwhelming to hear this and be like, how do I start? What do I do? Right? But as a simple practice, right? Can you notice, like, what are 3 little things you could notice during the day? Like where you stop and notice, maybe it's that you had, like, can you be present for a conversation with the barista at Starbucks, right? Like you notice a little conversation you had, or you notice like a really cute dog walking down the street. I mean, and you just pause for that extra second, right? And how present are you in your life? And then you can, of course, you can turn to meditation and, other things along those routes. But I think meditation has been a lifesaver for me. I meditate every day. Right now I meditate for 5 minutes. I would like to meditate for more. I have at other times in my life, but for me, it's a constant practice. It's a consistent practice rather than a time thing. Like it's sort of like the more I just do it consistently, I reap the benefits rather than, oh shoot, I don't have enough time today, because that cancels out the whole point. But anyway, that's sort of where my mind went when we were sort of talking about the physical things, and finding those little corners in your life. They are there. If you feel like you don't have time, I hear you, but you have 5 minutes. Find those 5 minutes. You do have them. You probably have 10.
Can I piggyback off that? What I'm hearing all of us say is we're also all talking about awareness. Yeah. Awareness of our surroundings, awareness of our bodies, awareness of our feelings. We can go into all kinds of directions with that. But I mean, I feel like when we get burned out, it's our body's signal that you've not been paying attention to me. You've not been paying attention to my real needs. You've not been paying attention to my body. It's a signal. It's like a desperation signal. Hey, so I'm just finding like this thread that as we're talking, awareness is a big part of this.
I know we want to do questions, but I would love to give a really quick exercise that everybody can do.
Sure, let's do it.
Maybe 5 minutes, but this I learned in the Alexander technique, and it's also something that trauma specialists do different versions of, and that is simply to take a moment, and this is like little mini meditations throughout the day. Notice everything you hear, like your peripheral hearing. Notice everything that you see. So you get all your senses engaged. Notice what you're tasting. Notice everything that's touching your skin 360 degrees around your body. Notice what your breathing feels like. Notice what you smell. That's a big one that opens up a lot of space. Notice space around you, because noticing space actually slows down your brain waves and calms you down. Feel the space inside. Notice what you're feeling emotionally. Notice the ground. I mean, all of the things that we've been talking about. But when you come at it from a multisensory point of view and you take the time to do this, I do this before every lesson with every student, with myself 100 times a day, but it's really simple and so powerful because it restores balance to your body, not just your body, to your being, your whole being. So I give you that.